I'm trying to hit record, Michael. It's recording. Oh, beautiful. We're on? Yep. Good evening. This is the City of Liberty Lake Parks and Arts Commission. My name is Nancy Hill. It's Monday, November 20th, 2023 at 4 p.m. Welcome. We'll start off by our call to order. Commissioners present, Nancy Hill, yes. David Heimbach.
Present.
Laura Frank is absent, excused. Tom Chamberlain.
Present.
John Barr.
Present.
Noel Otterson-Lapaco.
Present.
Present online. Yes. Bob Schneidmiller. And our newest commissioner, Allison Pegram. Online present? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. First agenda item, well, it's agenda item number 3 now, is the approval of the October 2nd and of the November 6th, 2023 meeting minutes. The November 6th meeting was canceled due to lack of quorum, and then the other meetings minutes are in your packet. Are there any corrections or updates or additions to the minutes?
I move to approve. A second.
And that's both the meeting minutes?
Yes, October and November.
It's been moved to approve. Any discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show the motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to item 4, our citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments today? No comments online? All right, thank you. Item number 5, moving on to unfinished and new business. We have a new student commissioner appointed by the mayor and approved by council on November 8th. That's Allison Pegram. Can we hear her talk?
Allison, would you like to say anything?
Well, I'm Allison Pegram, and I'm a senior at
We
Ridgeline
can't
High
hear you,
School.
Allison.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Hello?
Might have to change your microphone device down in the bottom left-hand corner.
Okay.
I can hear you just fine, Allison.
Heather Chronister says she can hear her, but we can't. Heather's also on Zoom.
Michael, is there some technical problem?
Hey, Allison, why don't you unmute and try it again, see if we can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hello?
Yep, we
Okay. Well, I'm Allison Pegram, and I'm a senior at Ridgeline High School. And I'm glad to be in this student counseling position. So thank you, everyone, for letting me be here.
Welcome, Allison.
And the kids.
Excuse me, Jen. Michael is now on mute and we cannot hear Nancy.
Noel, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, there you are. Thank you so much.
Great. I'll just back up just a little bit. The adjunct mayoral appointment of Katie Ferris is scheduled for tomorrow night's city council meeting. The adjunct mayoral appointment of Joni Hay has been postponed to December 5. We're just waiting for another piece of paperwork. Is Joni online?
She is.
So Joni, we're looking forward to you joining us. Hopefully by, well, it may just miss the next meeting. I'd have to check my calendar, but Anyway, we're looking forward to working with you soon.
Thank you.
We have Parks and Arts City Council report is due tomorrow, November 21st. Laura has graciously offered to create a few slides. Does anyone have an interest in going to tomorrow night, 7 o'clock council meeting to share with a little bit of what Parks and Arts has been up to?
I'm unavailable tomorrow night.
Okay. I guess I could do the report tomorrow night. I'll get with Laura on some key points once we have a meeting today. We might have some. All right, great. And that's at 7, correct, Jen? Correct. Okay. All right, moving on to item 6, action items and discussion presentations. Today we have with us Lisa Key and Amy Mullerly to go over some community events, policies, I guess I would say. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Michael, are you gonna advance the slides for me? Yes. Okay. All right, so, yes. Is it gonna come up on the screen?
Well, so it's not gonna end up on the TV screens, is it? Cause this desktop isn't logged into the right meeting. Sorry, everyone. This is the first time we're running the meeting a little bit differently. Bear with us. Oh, he got it. Excellent. Oh, but they can't see it up there. Shoot.
It's okay. I can just keep going. Okay. Thank you guys for giving us some time on your agenda to talk about some changes we're making to the community event permitting process. So for a little bit of background, in late 2022, staff noticed that we were having some challenges reviewing and processing community event permits. So we started researching some potential changes, and as additional applications came in, the lack of clarity and the lack of guidance became some real obstacles to ensuring that we were having complete and thorough reviews with consistent outcomes. So the standards that are currently being implemented are housed within the city's development code. And the city processes development code amendments on an annual basis, once a year. So these changes are required to be reviewed by the Planning Commission and decided by City Council. So this year, the community event permitting process is one of 5 city-initiated development code amendments. So we started looking at a lot of different jurisdictions. We looked at our own process and our own documents. We developed a project scope and kind of just started working on what this could be and what it should be. We first workshopped our proposed approach with the Planning Commission in late summer, and we had a public hearing with them in October. So our process has gotten a little bit convoluted since the city, many of you may know, the city recently switched insurance providers. And so we're now working with a new insurance provider. And when we provided them with these documents, they gave us some recommendations, and they also gave us a very lengthy toolkit with some tips specifically addressing this very process. So we've taken the community events and separated them from the other development code amendments. And it's kind of going through its own process so that we can incorporate all of WCIA's recommendations and fill in some policy holes that we've found through this process. So the project itself covers a lot of different types of changes. We're proposing updates to our definitions. Currently, our code uses seasonal and special events and community events interchangeably, but we only have a definition for community events. So we're cleaning up that language so that everything is consistently called community events. Seasonal and special events are listed in our land use matrix as a limited use. And that means limited uses are ones that are permitted, but they have special conditions associated with them. And they're permitted in all zones currently, with then the special condition being that they have to get a temporary use permit under our miscellaneous permit section. So what we're proposing to do is to take them out of the land use matrix, take them out of the temporary use, and create a new miscellaneous permit specifically tailored for community events. Just kind of takes that whole process and makes it very simple, that there's one place in the code that outlines the entire process. So the city's development code is currently separate from our municipal code. And there's a section in our municipal code that also addresses special events. And from what we can tell, that process has not been used recently. The one that's housed in the development code is currently the one that we use. So what we're proposing is to then repeal the municipal code section, that ordinance, and let the community events live in the development code exclusively. So that would essentially outline the rules of engagement, if you will. So, and then the part that I'm the most excited about is we've updated our application form, and we're working to get our application online. So the process will be not only available online, but also integrated with our current permitting software, so that the whole process should be a whole lot more streamlined and efficient for applicants and for staff. That's the ultimate goal at the end. So we can't see all my slides, but the new code language is about 6 pages long. So I didn't include the actual code language itself, but there's some new parts that I think are going to be really helpful. We're including a purpose and intent statement, which sounds very boring, but when you run into kind of those oddball events or those ones that don't fit neatly into processes that we've done before, or if we receive challenges on what we're requiring, our purpose and intent statement really gives us the why are we doing this? So we can look back at why we're permitting these, what do we need to look at, and essentially what do we care about? And that kind of gives us guidance on how we should be proceeding. It also provides when a permit is required, as well as permit exemptions. So what types of activities don't require a special event permit. It codifies our insurance requirements, as well as what has to be required, it goes into a much more detailed list about what needs to be submitted with the application. So what other documents do we need? The part that I think myself and other staff members are pretty excited to have are approval and denial criteria, very clear criteria upon which we can either say, yes, this is approvable, or no, this is not approvable. And also an appeal process. So if people don't like the outcome, there is a process for them to then appeal that and somebody else to make a different decision. So what was included in your packet and what we've proposed is going to change a little bit, because we have WCIA proposed some recommended sections that we would like to integrate, but we haven't quite had the time to vet it internally with staff and then take it back to the Planning Commission. So there's a little bit more process involved with this, which is why this one is taking a different course than the other 4 staff initiated amendments. So what we have for you guys, in addition to the code language, is also a policy question. As we've been working on this process, we've still been processing event applications, and we received an application for someone to reserve a city park from every week from May through October. So it was 26 instances of this event. And the event included food, beer, and wine being sold, accompanied by live music. One of the things that we've learned is the limitations or lack thereof from the Liquor Control Board as far as the number of times someone can have a city event with alcohol, an event in city parks with alcohol. And so what we are kind of coming to you guys asking the question is there a desire to limit the number of occurrences where someone is selling alcohol in a city park? Currently, there is no limit. And we also don't have a residency requirement. So the people hosting these events could very likely not be a City of Liberty Lake resident and also not be a City of Liberty Lake business owner. So we're coming to you guys asking, as from a park policy question, is there a desire to do that, to limit that type of reservation and activity? So, if anyone has any questions or anything like that, I'm happy to get into more detail. It's a little bit difficult without my visual aids, but So if anybody has any comments on the code language that was provided or the policy question, I would be happy to hear your thoughts.
And are you looking for a response at this meeting?
It doesn't have to
Preferably.
be at this one. I don't know when your next meeting is, but I'm working on a separate policy document. It will have to eventually be approved by city council, but it's really for us kind of knowing what those parameters are, when do we require certain things and what are those trigger points? And this was one that we just really we thought isn't a question for staff to just answer. And there really isn't a policy expert on that except for you guys. So you guys are kind of our backing for what that policy is going to look like. So it doesn't have to be today if it's better to just kind of let that one sit and you guys can chew on it a little bit and then we can come back and get a little bit more of your thoughts, or if anybody has.
So is this like for birthday parties or?
No, it's for bigger city events, private birthday parties. So essentially the line that we're drawing is it open to the public? Is it open to everybody? So you would see it on like Facebook where you're trying to draw a large crowd versus having a limited guest list. And is it likely to have I want to get the term right. Is it likely to have a significant impact on city delivered resources? So police, fire, emergency response, our streets, our sidewalks, those kinds of things.
So that'd be like barefoot in the park
Yes.
or, all right,
4th of July events.
4th of July events.
Oh, yeah,
And then farmer's market.
Yep. It would apply to all of those bigger events that have to go through our community event process. Yeah.
So I know you're implementing a different policy, but what was wrong with the one that was in place?
Well-
For something like this?
We don't have one.
Okay.
That's the question. As far as the policy question for reoccurring events and limiting the number of times that someone can sell alcohol in the park, we don't currently have a policy on that. That's part of why we're coming to you guys. Is that how we want to use our parks? Do we want someone to be able to come in May and block out 26 weeks of a park on a certain day and sell food and alcohol and have live music? And I don't know the answer to that. That's part of what we're asking you guys. Is that how we want to?
You know
use
what
our
other
parks?
cities do? I mean, do they get a cut or do they?
There are some cities that do that,
Yeah.
do require a certain percentage of the proceeds from sales. I haven't seen very much go into the alcohol portion. Having reoccurring events that sell alcohol is not easy, but somebody found a loophole. So we just want to make sure that we're careful of what that looks like because they found a way around the limit that the Liquor Control Board imposes.
You mentioned I'll call them the vendors are not always city residents. I mean, isn't that the case for most events in our parks?
I don't know that I can say that most of them aren't. I think Tate would probably know that better. We have quite a few that are not City of Liberty Lake residents. So yes, we do. I know we do have quite a few. I don't know if that's the majority of them though. I'm not sure.
I would have to look into it to get an exact number, but it is at least half. At least, I know regular reservations, for example, the majority. So I would say at least half the community. At non-resident.
So I just wonder why you were concerned about that. Was it because if they take up that much time in the parks, then they're not available for city resident activities or?
That's part of it. We also, from a permitting standpoint, are ideal compared to other communities. So you could get people coming from the outside, blocking out a large chunk of time and then packing up and leaving. And in this particular case, there wasn't many opportunities for that host to then reinvest that back in the community. It was kind of okay, thank you, and then left. So that was part of the concerns.
In this example you're talking about, was there an impact to city resources?
Yes, I would say that there was a significant, just from and a lot of the reasons for that will be cleaned up with this code language. So, yes, I would say that there was, but there weren't a lot of like calls for police or calls for services, but I believe that part of the reason for that was because alcohol was never fully permitted to be served. When you add alcohol to things, you greatly increase the risk of things happening. And our insurance provider recognizes that and requires additional insurance for liquor to be sold, which is where we were saved was that the applicant found the cost of that insurance to be too high. So they didn't move forward, but that may not always be the case.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around what's allowed because like in Barefoot in the park, there's like a beer garden, it has like a fence around it and
Mhm.
people check ID. I mean, is that like a requirement?
It is, but again, Barefoot is a one-day thing and this would be every week. And so there are still those rules they would be required to follow. As far as having, checking ID, there has to be an ingress and an egress. There has to be a certain height of a fence around it. There has to be staff checking IDs and stuff like that. So those rules would still apply.
So when you sell X amount of alcohol, you have to sell X amount of food also.
I'm
Is there
not
some
su-
law with that?
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that rule. I think that would probably be regulated by the Liquor Control Board as far as making sure
Yeah.
that there's food available when you're serving alcohol, but that wouldn't be on the city. That would be the Liquor Control Board. They do. So you're required to register if you're a caterer serving one of these events. You have to register, you have to let your Liquor Control Board enforcement officer know that you're doing that. And that allows them to come and check up on what you're doing and make sure that what you're doing is within the rules.
How many events are reserved for 2024 summer and spring that could have alcohol at them that are already reserved? Do we know?
We don't open up reservations until after the first of the year, so we don't have any for 2024.
Okay.
I don't believe that, I think there was a handful of isolated events, but I don't believe that we've had one that had regular occurrences of alcohol present.
This one that we're talking about was the first time that we have run into repeated nights of proposed alcohol serving, which is not something we run into in the past, which is part of the reason that we're going through this process. We're drawing in new events, and with these new events come new challenges that we haven't faced before.
Could you make the requirement that like this, where they want to reserve 26 weeks, could you have it like anything over 13 weeks, you have to be a resident, and anything below 13? You could,
I think we can write our own rules, so I think we could do that. I
Yeah.
think it's just a matter of, is that what we want to do? Because then you are, there's the event itself sounded pretty interesting, so then you could be limiting the number of community events that are available by doing that.
Yeah.
Which is, again, our rules to write.
The only thing we have to be careful of with resident versus non-resident is with RCO and our grant funded parks, which are Rocky Hill Park and Pavilion Park. And they have some pretty stringent rules that we need to abide by when it comes to resident versus non-resident. So we would want to follow up on that.
When are you gonna publish your next revision of the code? Because I'd almost really like to read that. So we could take that all in and what it looked like and then discuss this a little bit more. I don't know what our timeline is.
Well,
So I emailed in the packet, emailed from the last meeting, like the most recent document. That was the most recent document, right?
that's the most recent document with changes that have been vetted by staff. So WCIA again sent me some additional resources. So
Oh.
I've amended
You
some
have-
of that,
okay.
but I haven't, like I said, I haven't vetted that internally yet to then go and ask out externally, is this going to work? So
So
I need to check with our internal people first.
So there's gonna be another revision.
There
that
is
we
another
haven't
round
seen.
of revisions coming. Yeah, WCIA recommends that we have, we list our conditions or our potential conditions that we could put on a permit. So you have to have porta potties, you have to have, to list that in the code language. They also recommend that we have a violation or penalty clause. So essentially, if you have a community event without a permit, what's the consequence to that? And they also recommend that we do like a cleanup deposit. So asking events of a certain size or a certain nature to provide a deposit in case something gets broken or ruined, that we can then recoup our costs and fix that. and not bear the cost of that. Because again, if they don't live in Liberty Lake, and they don't work in Liberty Lake, and they have an event and they damage something, then they can leave, and we really have no way to then recoup our costs other than like going to court, which is not good for anybody.
Well, my first thought coming from the wine industry is that having so many local wine and beer producers, if they chose to hold an event in Liberty Lake, like Sandpoint's Wine Festival, I think that would draw a lot of people, but really none of them are Liberty Lake residents. So in both that scenario and a one-time, or I'm sorry, an event like that, that would be, I think, similar to Barefoot in the Park, where there are several vendors. And in both that scenario and this weekly recurring event, in that case, I think it makes sense to charge them a portion of proceeds, because there is higher risk and just in case something happens.
Excellent. I did see some communities that did that. They had in their policies that a certain amount of the revenue that is generated from the event needs to be paid back to the city. So I have seen that done, and that's definitely something that I can look into.
Isn't that kind of a little bit of the case, Jen, like when somebody teaches a class in the
Mhm.
park that we get so much
20%, yeah,
of the registration?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a good potential solution. I can look into that a little more too.
I mean, when you think about 26, that's, I mean, the farmer's market is a recurring event but 26, that's definitely a recurring event. It's almost like you need to build a storefront around them or something.
Which is, yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Just part of the question that we had.
But I definitely think it would be worth taking a look at what Noel said and, you know, if there was a percent of the sales coming back to the city for park improvements or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, 26 weeks, that's half the year. That's a pretty big advantage for this group to book up a recurring event half of the year. I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask for a portion of the proceeds.
What's the fee now that a group like that would pay per week?
Well, it depends on what park they're in. And it depends on the nature of what they're doing. This particular individual did not have to pay for this event because we did not have a fee schedule established for it.
So Town Square Park, since it has been, since it was built, had never had a fee structure scheduled for it because it just didn't get used very much. So that is something that I know you and I have talked about adding to our winter discussion, is adding Town Square Park to the fee structure, that recreation fees structure that you approve each fall. That park has definitely increased in usage last year. And yeah, they didn't have to pay anything because there was no fee structure in place.
They did pay a $40 processing and technology fee.
yeah.
So we add that on all of our permits, and after a very protracted process, there was a permit that was pulled, and because we didn't have any other applicable fees to apply, it was just the processing and technology fee.
So the farmer's market doesn't pay a fee either.
No, they're nonprofit,
They're
and at this point, up until now, we didn't charge for the nonprofit groups.
The other thing to consider, if I can interject, is that we're getting ready to go into a master planning effort for Town Square Park. And so you're going to have a growth in that park and probably it becoming more popular for these kinds of things. So keep that in mind as well.
Right, well, I definitely think we should get on our agenda and if we do a fee schedule for Town Square Park, could we even address that at our next meeting? So it would be effective the beginning of 2024 or shortly thereafter?
That's a great question. Usually the fee structure is a part of the budget process. So that document is in the budget right now for council approval as an entire agenda pack or an entire budget document. So I mean, Lisa, have you ever taken your fee structure out of the budget cycle it just would be a matter of scheduling it
there's nothing in code that, nothing in our municipal code that would prohibit it. So I would think that if Parks and Arts was to bring forward an updated fee schedule to address something that hadn't been addressed before,
Mhm.
that it would go through city council the same
Okay.
way anything else would.
It would just be a budget amendment.
Yeah.
And we did one this year, earlier in the year, to address some fee issues associated with the new trailhead facility. So it's not uncommon.
So theoretically, we could do it at our December meeting and it would have time to go to council for approval before
The first of the year.
the first of
Yeah.
the year. I think we should
Yeah,
definitely
okay.
put that on our agenda if you guys agree, because it sounds like there's a deficit with the increased use like Mark indicated and that we've seen. Well, we'll look forward to the next draft and I guess we'll keep this discussion going at our next meeting. And if that comes up in advance, then, we'd love to take a look at it before then. Thank you so much for coming. Any other questions? All right. Moving on to the vote now, Jen, for clarification.
So this is to make sure everybody is voting on the commission tonight to add back in those 2 adjunct positions that we had from a long time ago. The reason for the ask of the vote on that is it is not called out in our ordinance, which act as our bylaws. So because it isn't, I thought it would be best, and the mayor agreed to actually put this forward as a vote from the commission that yes, you're confirming you want to add the 2. It's not specific to Katie Ferris or Johnny Hay, but it's just stating that you'd like to have the 2 adjunct positions be in place.
Okay. And to me, that seems like a great idea because we've had some quorum issues and an adjunct, of course, can fill in on a vote when we have that. And does anybody want to make a motion to this effect or some discussion, or how do you want to proceed?
I'll go ahead and propose a motion. I move that we add the 2 adjunct positions back into our curriculum, so to speak. That's the correct word.
I'll second.
Great, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Show the motion is unanimously approved, and I think we're all excited about a couple adjunct commissioners to help us out. All right, now we'll move on to the Hooptown donation. And the installation of the backboards and rims. I can't remember where we were in the last meeting because that was a while back, but Hooptown is donating the new backboards for all 4 of the basketball goals. So that covers the cost. They'll be mounted on the existing poles, which will likely need to be painted black to go with that. And I don't know, Jen, if that's something your crew would do in the spring or something.
Yeah. we could do that.
And it's my understanding that they're going to try to install those soon, like in the next few weeks. So it's exciting that we don't have any more out of pocket of our budget, which helps us cover, the skate park items and that. I can't wait. I just peeked when I was driving by and they're not in yet, but
Yeah, and there are photos in here of examples of what they will look like in your packet.
and the donation has already been accepted
Yes.
by council, so
And,
that's approved. So there's just the installation and we'll be good to go. And I think that'll be a nice way of finishing off the court. Any questions on that? Otherwise, we'll dip down into the Hooptown mural extension. Laura had mentioned to me that somehow with the dimensions that the mural artist for the courts was given and maybe you know what happened and the actual courts, the mural is not as wide as the court. If you go over there and you walk around, it doesn't really quite look like a mistake, but it could look a little neater. And Laura brought up with the artist and that we could do a mural extension to finish that edge. I mean, it's like a sidewalk kind of width edge on the 2 sides. And it would really finish it off and make it look clean. I don't think there's a big cost associated with that. Have any of you been able to go over there and see that? I don't think we have a picture of that.
No, yeah, I didn't put a picture in.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that happened. How did the artist not? Surprised the artist didn't say, oh, by the way, we don't have enough mural space for the court size and just finish it and then leave us with the having to.
Well, I
discuss.
don't think it really showed up until after the mural was done and the company came and put the lines on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was just some weird fluke by what was given and what ended up, and there were some different lines on that court because it was a multi-function court before, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it wasn't noticed until after the mural was completed, and then when the court lines came on, they weren't at the edge of the mural.
I would think that the artist would have the dimensions of the court, though. I mean, I'm just thinking aloud here. But yeah, we definitely should get it adjusted if it needs to be.
I don't know if, had Laura given any
think-
cost idea of
Yeah,
that?
she did. I want to say it was 1,200. Let me look real quick.
I mean, if it is around 1,200, we've just saved $10,000
Yeah.
on the backboard, so I think we can afford to neaten it up a little bit, I guess I would call it.
Yeah, her rough estimate is 1,200, weather pending, could be completed in a few days. And that falls in our procurement such that we don't have to get quotes or competitive bids for that.
Okay, we just need a motion to move forward.
Yeah.
What's the pleasure of the commission?
I move that we finish the courts as we originally, proposed, using the additional funds available to do that.
Okay, any discussion on them? Oh, yeah, I guess we need a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion on the motion?
I have just a point of clarification. I assume that would be next year at this point.
Well, it sounds like weather pending, if she's got decent weather to do it. I don't know, in the 40s, it's probably not
Okay.
conducive for the paint, so it'd be spring.
Yeah, unless we get one of those beautiful winter days
Yeah.
or something. All right, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show the motion approved unanimously. Moving on to the trailhead beam and bench discussion. In your packet today is a picture of the beam. For those of you who are not aware, this beam was a part of the original Trailhead Golf Course building and was salvaged as the, I guess, demolition occurred in hopes that it could be made into something useful as we move forward. I went over to Trailhead last month, I guess it was, and you can see a picture. No, where is that picture? Oh, I guess we don't have that picture. Which one? The one I took to show where the bench might go. We just have the two art wall
Oh,
pictures.
maybe.
I got these two. Those are the art walls.
Oh. No, I
Yeah.
must have,
Yeah, there's one more picture. Okay, so when you come in the event center entrance of Trailhead, which is kind of double doors on the east end of, it's the east, there's two entrances, one's more towards the west, and one more towards east. It's the rotary entrance. When you come in there, the entrance to the restaurant is going to be on your left immediately. But there is about a 10-foot wall between the outside wall of the building and the entrance to the restaurant. There's a sign there. I think it's is it a rotary sign? Oh, wait, I have the pictures on
Or
my
is it one of
phone.
those lit signs that changes?
Yeah, it's some kind of sign.
Yeah.
But it's high enough up that I think you could put a bench under it.
Mhm.
And it would be a nice waiting area for the restaurant if it was overflowed. I don't know how long the bench could be, because I didn't have any measuring tool with me, but it looked like about a 10-foot wall, so a 6-foot bench for sure, maybe an 8-foot one. I'd have to see how doors open and clearance and that sort of thing, but I thought it might be nice to make a bench out of it. And that's as far as I got.
You have
think I-
somebody in mind as far as design?
I have nothing in mind other than we would sit on the wooden part.
Mhm.
And maybe because of the feel, the Pacific Northwesty feel of that building, maybe a metal base of some sort. Maybe a bobby base, I don't know.
Well, you know, that piece of wood is really neat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if it's, you know, finished off and everything, that's what really nice.
Those were my thoughts as well. I thought, you know, a bench out in front, of the clubhouse or the restaurant would be simple to do. And also, you know, serve with some purpose.
Mm-hmm. And quite possibly, I mean, we would be able to do a second bench depending on the wall. Where is this? Well, I probably didn't send you a picture because I don't seem to have it. Okay, that's why you don't have it. I didn't do it. I
Do we have a
apologize.
stock picture by chance that we could throw up there, of what the building looks like in the front? Online?
Well, this probably wouldn't be into our next, I promise you,
Yeah.
before our next meeting, I will go take a picture of that wall. So that you can see it, and I'll go over there with a tape measure and I'll measure it. And I think Jen believes the beam is 11 feet by roughly 3 feet. I don't know what the normal depth of a bench is, but 3 feet doesn't sound bad.
That looks bigger than 11 feet.
Mm-hmm.
11.
Is it?
So maybe we could do a 6-foot bench and then a 5-foot bench somewhere else. I don't know.
Does anybody have any contacts that we could reach out to have them fabricate that from that? You have any contacts that we could contact?
Doesn't Bobby's Weiss's place does metal
Mhm.
fabrication?
Yeah, so if you needed a base.
Mhm,
You could ask Bobby.
mhm. Well, why don't-
Carpenter should probably, you know, look at that and have lots of ideas.
Yeah, why don't I mean, this will be a project, I think, for next year. So why don't I gather a little more information before our next time? I'll measure the space, I'll photograph the space. I can reach out to our a Liberty Lake business that does metal fabrication, see if they would do something like that to keep the business in town, but we could certainly do other calls. I mean, it's possible we could even do a call to artists for it. We'll just have to, let's gather some information and then we can talk about it a little bit more, if that sounds good to everyone.
Mhm.
All right. I have some homework.
Yeah, I think that's a really lovely idea. It's simple, it's functional, it's a focal point.
Yeah, and while I'm there, I'll look around. Maybe there's another place we could put another small bench or something and utilize the whole beam, but I'll take a look.
Nice. Great idea, Nancy.
Okay, now we'll move on to the trailhead art walls, which you do have pictures of that I took. I don't know why I didn't take the other picture. So there's 2 art walls. The picture you see with the drinking fountains in it, that wall across the hall from that wall is where the bench would probably go, but both of these walls have the lighting that was designed for art. So there's one as you enter the event center where you see the drinking fountain, and the other where you enter the store, the golf pro shop. And it has the same lighting feature. And I don't know if you've been to the building, but as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it has a really nice Pacific Northwest feel. And I thought it might be really fun to do a City of Liberty Lake resident photo contest. Because if photos taken in the City of Liberty Lake. and photos would look so nice on there. I thought you know, if you did art, like paintings and stuff like that, you might get some pastel colors that might not blend in with the building or things like that, but we could do an annual photo contest. Probably have at least, you know, a first and second and third place for each wall. Nice grouping of 3, and then every year, you know, we could redo it. I don't know if you have an interest in doing something like that or what ideas you have, but we do have 2 nice art walls that we need to do something with, and that was my idea.
I think that would be a great idea. And I believe there's a photography group that meets at the water building
Oh,
that they're I think probably getting them involved. And they, of course, take great pictures. So I think that really sounds like a good idea.
okay.
Perhaps we could even expand on that in addition to the contest. Is get some of the historical pictures like we see it like at Barlow's and put them on the wall as well. As almost like a permanent, not, you know, it doesn't be fixed, but like as a permanent picture, and then have the newer pictures amongst that.
Mhm.
I think that would look great. I don't know, you know, when I go to Barlow's, as many times as I'm there, which is more than I need to be, I always look at the pictures
Mhm.
and I always find something new. And I thought if we had, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 of those like these on the wall and then the newer pictures amongst that, I think that would be a great way to contrast the old versus the modern.
I mean, these walls aren't huge walls. I'm thinking there were maybe like 8-foot walls, so we don't probably want to get it too cluttered, but
But I think if we had, you know, this size picture,
mhm.
I think if you put anything smaller, really, it, even though, those
Yeah,
are pretty big. for
I mean,
that
you're
wall.
probably
Yeah.
gonna get 3 of
Yeah.
those on there, which is, I mean, 3 is a nice number to have on a wall. I mean,
If you want to proceed with that, you know, your contact is off. And, if there's anybody in Liberty Lake that has pictures, any pictures, with historic, Liberty Lake.
mhm. Yeah.
We would be gladly, it's in showing you what is available and allowing you to pick.
I mean, we could do all historical and not do a photo contest. I mean, the sky's the limit on that, or do one wall historical and one wall photo contest, or I just personally like the idea of photographs because I think they fit better in the building than other paintings.
Just a quick reminder, make sure your mics are turned on.
Is your mic turned on, Bob?
So even if we did, let's just say on the big one outside the pro shop, did that for historical pictures as a suggestion, since that's a larger wall, and then use the wall outside of the restaurant for maybe the photo contest.
Yeah, we could certainly do that.
Okay,
I have
Rotate.
something to say.
Yes.
So my teacher and I were thinking if maybe we can extend this photography contest to the local schools as well, because I definitely know we have some students who are pretty into photography and pretty good at it. And I have someone who's a classmate of mine who's pretty good at it. So if we can extend this contest to them as well, that would be pretty awesome. If you're all okay with that.
I love.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love the
That's
idea of
great.
student participation. We'll just have to decide if we want to limit to Liberty Lake residents or not, or we want to go outside of that.
I think even if we limited it to Liberty Lake residents, we would have a lot of submissions.
Yeah, there's a lot of students that live within the city of Liberty Lake. Noelle, any thoughts?
I think opening it up to students is a wonderful idea, and that we probably would still have plenty of response, even if we did keep it just to Liberty Lake residents.
John, what were you gonna say?
I think it's a great idea, but I think the idea of rotational, don't let it get too stale. Perhaps every 30 days you're rotating it in and out, so that way you could have more participation and you could even have you know, 1 month could be certain age groups between so and so, and then next month could be, you know, people 50 and over, so.
Mhm. That might be a logistical nightmare because somebody's gonna have to manage that if it's once a month.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of looking at once a year, because if you run a contest and have a, 60-day submission period and you pick it and then it's up there for a year. But yeah, something to think about, maybe doing it a little more frequently than that. Maybe,
And years kind of long, I think.
Yeah.
to have.
I understand what you're saying.
Well, I mean, if you have multiples, then that will draw people more often. As long as they know, okay, it's just like the story walk. When you change them out, people will walk by and see it differently now.
Maybe,
Same thing.
maybe quarterly.
Yeah.
Might work.
What do we need to do if we wanted to pursue this idea? How do we present it? Something we have to present to city council?
I would recommend giving them an update on the idea and ask for their support. It doesn't formally have to go to council
Okay.
if we're not purchasing anything or there's no agreement in place that we're looking at.
Well, we probably will have to purchase, some frames.
And depending on the purchases, the purchase amounts that would go before council or not, depending on that bracket of how expensive is it, but I think it's worthy of an update to council.
If we did some kind of frames where it was interchangeable, we just picked the standard size and then the pictures submitted have to be
Exactly.
in that format.
I think probably requiring they already come pre-framed. Cause like I participated in some photo contests, like over in Seattle at the Museum of Light, and you can, they select which kind of photos, but everything has to meet specific requirements as to framing, but you're held to the responsibility to frame it, because frames can be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And
I was just thinking we would buy frames that we could change the work out quarterly.
Or it could just be freestanding, it could be the frameless pictures that are mounted. I don't think, we don't have to have a frame with it. We've all seen the pictures that are mounted. It looked like a poster board, almost
A
like
dry board.
a dry board.
That's so easy to damage though.
Yeah, but
somebody-
how are they gonna get damaged?
Somebody's gonna bump into the wall. A dry board is really pretty fragile for like outside a restaurant, that kind of thing.
I think without frames though, the photos could get damaged or
Mhm.
something, and people really,
I'd be happy to work with you
Mhm.
to come up with something to
Yeah.
present to the city.
Yeah, maybe we can get together. I know it's a short turnaround and see if we can come up with some ideas and then
Yeah.
bring them back to this meeting in December and.
Okay, I'm available. Just let me know.
Okay.
We could do it virtually. We could do it.
John, you'd like to be
Yeah,
involved too?
I've done that.
Awesome.
Great.
All right. Well, we just need to find a time to get together between now and December 4 or something. Yeah. All
Are we
right.
limited to 3 or something like that?
3 is fine, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It's an exciting opportunity. It's kind of nice. The lighting and everything is already there. Maybe we'll have to meet over there so we can actually get a
There you
feel
go.
for the space. We can sit in the Rotary room. All right, Trail, now we're moving on to item 7, staff report.
Yep, so update on the Rocky Hill shade structure. They actually have started the installation of that. Hopefully, I think in the next week to 2 weeks, it will be complete. Of course, they'll be putting the shade up and showing my crew how to take it down. So
I was just gonna say,
it won't be up until spring full
Yeah.
time. So we'll take it down during the snow.
could we
season.
get some pictures of it once it's done?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Is it a shade cloth on the top?
Yeah.
then? Okay.
Mhm. And as you all know, Winter Glow opened last weekend. Anything you want to share on that, Tom?
Just big success.
Yeah.
And it's bigger this year. Yeah, we had real good turnout. Santa came in. We did a little something different this year. We gave him a throne to sit on and there's a line for kids to come and talk to him. And that was it was a big hit.
Yeah, the Santa line was long most of the night.
Yeah, it was
Right there.
and the weather cooperated too. But if
So,
you got a chance.
yeah, if you haven't
you-
been out, it's
It's pretty
spectacular
Yeah.
this year.
Okay, and then on projects that are wrapping up, Allison, did you want to say anything about your graffiti barrel that you have been working on? Do you? Go ahead.
Well, my friend and I, so I'm working on this with my friend, and we're almost done with it, but basically we're doing like a scenery with like the mountains, the river, and some trees. And then we have like different landmarks on the barrel that represent like Spokane or Liberty Lake. So we have like the clock tower downtown. We have that pavilion thingy, and then we have like the wagon, and then we have like that river in Spokane. So it's in progress, but we're almost done. It just takes a while.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously we already mentioned the backboards should be going in soon, hopefully, and the skate park mural has wrapped up. As between now and the last meeting, Kent City Council approved the inland chess agreement. I believe he started holding classes over at the library, and in the spring, summer season, he hopes to have classes in our parks, in the picnic shelters. So let's see. The last thing I have is the two expiring commission positions. Commissioner Barr and Commissioner Chamberlain definitely need to let me know as soon as possible if you're going to be reapplying and fill out a new application. I would like to get those entered into the December 5th council packet for approval. Those have to go through the mayor first. Then once she appoints you back in, if that's the route she takes, then it has to go to city council for approval. At the very latest, the second meeting in December. That way we can start up in January with a full commission. We won't have empty seats.
Is that the application online?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yep.
did that. I was looking for a form or whatever. I thought you were gonna send me, but I did the online.
Did you email it in, or? Cause I haven't received it
just
yet.
Clicked the
Click to send.
submit button
Cause I don't, when do you know when you submitted it?
this morning.
Oh, okay. So Kelsey probably has it then. Okay, I'll follow up with her to see if she has received that. And that, if there aren't any questions, that is all I have.
And I'll get something to you
Okay.
officially.
Great.
Yeah, I have just a quick question. Is there anything that needs to be looked at for the symphony coming out?
No, it's on a 3-year agreement.
Okay,
We did that this
Right.
year, so
Last year,
next year is year 2.
Yeah.
And 3, so
so that's good. Good.
yeah.
All right. Anything else for the greater good? Well, thank you, Allison. Thank you, Joni. Thank you, Katie. We're looking forward to working with you guys, and our next meeting is going to be December 4th, so it's coming up on us pretty quick now. And we're adjourned. Thank you.
But just
Thank
for your
you.
information.
Thank
this is
you.
the Last
Thank you.
in-person meeting. Yes. Yeah, we're in Phoenix. We have a condo in Phoenix. I mean, we